Good evening from the New York Public Library, one of the greatest collections of books in the world. For people who love to read, this is a high temple. But of course, reading is not just for those with library cards or intellectual curiosity. It is fundamental to ordinary life, to understanding directions, instructions, labels, to knowing what is going on all around us. And most of us take reading for granted. But it is a shameful fact that in America, millions of school-aged children are not learning to read, and an estimated 44 million adults living in the United States are going through life as functional illiterates, unable to scan a newspaper or fill out the most elementary forms. What kind of a world is it for them? Tonight, you are going to witness the pain and the courage of 4 adults who are determined to learn to read. We think they deserve our attention, for they represent a serious social condition in America, adult illiteracy.
To help you.
These men and women have just gotten to know each other, but they share a common secret they keep from almost everyone. They're illiterate. They cannot read.
Walk. West.
A few have tried to learn in the past with limited success, but each has decided it is now time. Time to learn to read. Time to regain their dignity.
Ever.
Okay, now what's this word?
For 8 months, we followed along as they participated in a tutoring program in Queens, New York, and embarked on what would prove to be an exasperating but also life-changing journey. Last October, the group gathered for its first session at the Queensboro Public Library's Adult Learning Center.
I know everybody's anxious to read. You want to read today, right now.
They meet tutor Bob Eaton, who has been teaching at the library for 5 years. He's not paid for his time. The program is free for the students.
What I wanted us to do tonight was simply to get to know each other.
Bob doesn't mention a word about the ABCs that night, but allows the students to steer the conversation. And within minutes, they begin to acknowledge the pain of their deficiency. Henry Hills is 56 and works at Con Edison. He recounts a humiliating moment with an instructor at a work-related seminar that occurred years ago. He still feels the sting.
I said, I have a problem. I said, I want to speak to you personally. I said, look, listen, I don't want everybody in here to know that I can't read. Oh, we got a guy in here. He's a grown man. He can't read.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine?
Henry grew up in rural South Carolina, and, as was often the case for African-American children living there during the 1950s, he never went to school. Today, attendance is up, but overall, literacy rates among rural black children in the South still lag way behind the national average. How old were you when you were aware that you couldn't read and it would make life more difficult for you?
Well, I know right away not knowing to read was difficult, but at the time, couldn't do anything. Somebody had to work that farm, and you're sharecropping. Someone had to work.
And no one was saying to you, Henry, you got to learn to read.
No.
Henry prides himself on being a family man. He and his wife Theresa have 3 daughters and 3 grandchildren. And he is tormented every day that his inability to read is shortchanging his family in many ways.
You look at your kids and you raise them from the small, and they go into school and you didn't go. And they ask you, Daddy, can you spell this word for me? I get a book, I pretend that I'm reading, I'm lying, but I'm trying. I'm winning an Academy Award here. I'm reading this book.
Letitia is Henry's middle daughter.
He's the breadwinner. He's, paying all the bills. He's doing all this stuff, but, still it's like underlined, Daddy, you can't read. You can't help us with anything.
Too late. That's right.
Henry's goal, after taking the classes, is to be able to actually read the words to his 3-year-old granddaughter, Ayani.
I said, Grandpa, read this. And I'm looking at her, the glow in her face, because she's actually thinking I'm doing this. And I'm saying, wow, man. I said, that's why I got to try harder.
I never really think that I want to have any children because I don't think I have much to offer by not knowing to read and write.
32-year-old Lotta Das was raised in the South American country of Guyana, where English is the native language.
I have my nephew, he's 5 years old, and just a few days ago we were going somewhere in the bus, and there was a little sign in the bus, and he was asking me, "Auntie, what's that sign say?" And that really hurts because I didn't know, I couldn't read it. I was embarrassed because there were people around, and I just couldn't tell him. So I'm here to able to know to read a little. At least I want to be able to read certain sign on the street and do certain things for if I have a child someday.
Lotta grew up in a broken home with little focus on education. She stopped attending school when she was about 10, and at 20 emigrated to New York. She's one of an untold number of people who enter the United States unable to read. For the past 8 years, Lotta has worked 7 days a week as a caregiver to an elderly woman. She travels 90 minutes each way on 3 different buses to keep an $18,000 a year job. She believes it is one of the only ways that she could make a living.
I don't know really what I'm gonna do if this woman should pass away. What I would do for a job, I really have no idea.
Lotta has lived in the United States for more than 12 years and has come to love her new home. Twice, she has taken the test to become a citizen. Twice, she has failed, having to write a few lines, as the test requires, about why she wanted to become a citizen was simply impossible.
I couldn't write it.
What did you say to him?
I tell him I can't. He said, just try to do anything that you could, just any little thing. And I can't. And then he gave me something to read. He said, "Can you read this for me?" I said, "No, I can't read or write."
Lotta's goal is to learn to read so she can finally become a U.S. citizen.
I hide it, you know.
Irene Thompson, 26, grew up in New York City. She struggled as a student and believes the school system simply gave up on her. In the 3rd grade, Irene was placed in special ed, and at the age of 14, she was still reading at a 2nd grade level. Like others in the class, she carries painful memories.
My parents wasn't positive about my reading at all. It's sad to say they had knocked me down, my own parents, saying that, "Oh, you're slow, you're handicapped, you'll never amount to nothing." So I looked at that situation like I believed it.
Irene's school records note that she had a learning disability, but reading specialists tell us that a student who has a 2nd grade reading level as a teenager almost certainly has not been getting the kind of help she needs. At age 14, Irene was transferred to a vocational school where she says she was taught how to cook and clean, but not how to read. Studies have found that today failing students often are being pushed out like that to keep schools' test scores and graduation rates up. Irene quit the vocational school at age 17. Her reading level had not improved. After she left, an evaluation of her educational history described Irene as, quote, clearly not diploma bound.
They made it seem like it was too far-fetched for me to even get anything, like a diploma or any kind of career job.
Experts say countless students like Irene are unfairly labeled as incapable and often wind up never learning to read.
It's hard, really, I would think, to explain to other people just how hard it is.
Yeah, and they're not the one in my situation. You can read, you have a college degree. What about me? You know, you're telling me anybody can do anything you put your mind to it, but it takes years to get there.
Irene says she wants to improve her reading so she can get her high school equivalency degree and go on to college. She also wants to be a good role model for her 3-year-old son, Kevin, and to start to shake off her poor self-image.
Did you have any reservations about doing this, about going on television and talking about it?
I didn't really want to do it because I was embarrassed, but I think I can help somebody else to let them know there's other things out there for them that can help them read if they can't.
I think this is the stage.
The first session runs an hour longer than scheduled because the students are so relieved that they have a place where they can openly confront their condition.
It's good to share and know that it's happening to, you know, to other people just like
I never
yourself.
met no one else like me, you know?
Me too.
I mean, now we're here, I could honestly say this is my first time that I met someone.
And you
Yeah.
can talk about it, because
Yeah.
I never talk about it, God forbid.
51-year-old Joyce Rossi was raised in Brooklyn and cut school for most of her childhood. She is typical of another class of illiterates, truants. In Joyce's case, no one seemed to notice or to care.
You had a tough family situation. So when you went to school, you just went in the front door and went out the back door, right?
Yes. I thought I knew everything. I didn't have to be in the class with other children.
Joyce wants to learn to read so she can write a letter to her 20-year-old son who is now a Marine.
No idea.
And she no longer wants to live a compromised life, a life where she cannot read the diploma she was given 35 years ago in the 8th grade.
It doesn't make any sense. I don't even know how to read the title of it. You know what I mean? Off the class of whatever. See, I don't know.
The students will meet 4 hours a week and be
you each
expected to put in
to each
time at
other,
home.
and I have
There's incentive to learn quickly, because within 8 months they will be invited to stand up in front of almost 600 people at the library's annual luncheon and do the very thing that they've been unable to do for most of their lives: read words. If their first session is any indication, this is a motivated group.
As long as you guys are willing to go the mile, I'll be here because I want to read everything.
Let's just say them together. A,
A,
B, C.
The literacy students meet for class number 2 and get down to business. During the next several months, their tutor Bob will focus on phonics, teaching the sounds that letters make. He will introduce material that has everyday relevance to adults, such as job applications and newspaper articles.
G-R-O-W.
In this session, Bob also presents a list of the most commonly used words.
I would like to work with you on 100 easy sight words,
Yes.
and then from these words, build up vocabulary. 8 is as.
S-A-S.
He asked the students how many of the words they believe they could each master in 2 months. Lotta, Henry, and Irene go for broke and pledge to learn all 100. It will be an especially tall order for Lotta and Henry, who tell the class they know only about 2 or 3 words on the list to begin with.
Better.
B-E-T-T-E-R.
Better.
But Joyce is cautious.
20.
You want to you want to know a total of 20 words.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Having been employed as a garment worker most of her life, Joyce never really had to read on the job. Outside of work, she relied on her husband Lou to translate the written word.
If something happened to him at home and you had to call somebody, you'd have to look it up in the telephone book, you wouldn't know what to do?
No. I wouldn't know what to do.
Now she craves the independence that reading promises.
I want to do this. I feel interested, that I'm doing this.
Eager to be the schoolgirl she had never been, Joyce is taking her studies seriously. She's trying to make up for a mistake she made years ago. When her son Louis Jr. was in the 3rd grade, he was failing school, in part, says Joyce, because she told him not to worry about doing his homework. The cycle of illiteracy threatened to continue.
I was giving him my sickness.
In addition to working on the list of 100 words from class, Joyce is determined to learn to read a children's book that has caught her fancy.
It was sunny, whatever. Mother and father went away. The babysitter went, oh boy, see, I don't know, I gotta go in between the line.
Joyce sometimes wonders if she has a learning disability that has made reading so difficult for her. It is a possible, but not a given.
Come look at this big, said Victor.
Experts estimate that at least half of the adults who never learned to read as children are learning disabled, but most, like Joyce, were never tested. In fact, of the 4 adults that we have been following, only Irene was ever evaluated. And so in many cases, people simply don't know about their fundamental skills. But for Joyce, reading at only a very basic level does not dim her hopes.
Once I accomplish reading this book, then I want to I have a library card, go to the library and pick out a book. It's like open up the books and start learning. I give myself reassurance that I'm going to do it.
So you
It's
know
a
what that
ni-
looks like, but you
it's a
can't. But you don't know what that
NyQuil.
says.
No, I don't know what it says.
A trip to the drugstore with Lotta reveals how critical it is for her to learn to read. What an ordeal a simple errand can become when labels have no meaning.
When you get into medicines, sometimes it's dangerous if you don't know, if you can't read the directions about how to take them, how many to take, that kind of thing. Do you worry about that?
Yeah, I am worried about that. That's why sometimes I'll talk to my niece about it on the phone, and sometimes she'll write it out, and I'll bring the paper to the
And try to match
drugstore.
it up.
Try to match it up.
And what about the people in stores where you
I never ask anyone.
never ask?
No, because
You're embarrassed?
yeah, I don't want to come into the store next day and one cashier was saying that, oh, that girl doesn't know how to read.
Number 2 is across. Cross. C-R-O-S-S.
On an October afternoon, the day before the fourth session, Lotta is studying with a tape Bob provided to the group to help master the 100 words. The work is monotonous and painstaking, and it doesn't always yield results.
Always. A-L-S-O, always.
From where Lotta sits today, actually being able to read aloud at the library luncheon the following spring seems, well, improbable.
It's harder than I was expecting it to be. Because as I would go through these words and I would know them and I would take a break for a little while and then boom, it's out of my head.
And it's no wonder. Studies show that older brains simply aren't as receptive to learning to read as younger brains. Lotta is also coping with something else. She's feeling resentful that the work is intruding on her life.
Every time I try to do my own things now that I used to do, I'm feeling guilty. And that's the thing that's getting to me, like this weekend. I went out with my family and I felt like I shouldn't have gone out. I should have stayed home and, hit the books.
But if she fails to focus, Lotta knows that she will have a very tough time ever passing the citizenship test. And she will continue to have difficulty handling the simplest tasks, like marking an appointment or a special day on a calendar. To do that, Lotta has always fallen back on a system that she created, but because it is a system that is not based on a language and is not universally used, it is flawed.
I have all the little scribbles, it's like, I don't remember what it is for. I guess, what is this scribble here for, Roy? Roy, come. What is this here for? What is this? J-U-N-E, what is that?
June.
June? Do you know what's this for?
June 24th.
That's June. What is June 24th?
My birthday.
Lotta must rely on her 5-year-old nephew, who knows how to read, to help her out.
Around, cross, okay. I had the other one too, but it just like went away on me.
In early November, a few weeks after the program started, Henry is also frustrated trying to learn the words on the list. He could recognize just 3 by the 3rd class and not many more by the 6th session.
She offers.
He frequently stays after class to work one-on-one with Bob.
I get sometimes so discouraged, I curse myself out.
He has the ability, and he definitely has a drive. The thing that he's going to need to do is just somehow or other find the time.
But time is exactly what Henry lacks. His demanding work schedule at Con Edison, sometimes 16 hours a day, often prevents him from making it to class, much less studying at home.
Morning.
It's a catch-22 for him. He's grateful that on his job he can earn up to $80,000 a year working overtime, and the company does support his taking reading classes. But Henry has been on the job for more than 32 years, and he's still a driver and a mechanic's assistant.
I'm tired of being where I'm at. I need to be on a higher playing field than what I was before, and I can do this. B-U-Y, bye.
Sometimes Henry tries to squeeze studying into his workday. His coworker Mike now knows about Henry's reading problem, but Henry didn't tell him until the two became partners. It would have been too difficult for Henry to fake reading maps and directions as they traveled from site to site in their emergency truck restoring electricity.
Anywhere you look, there's words everywhere. And, working with the guy and seeing how hard he's trying, makes you realize that it's I guess it makes them feel a little living in somebody else's world, maybe.
I do know a lot of these words.
Irene is not surprised that she can make it through the class's basic word list. 3 years earlier, her husband Jim had encouraged her to enroll in another adult education program. She worked hard, and she now reads at about a 5th grade level.
Parents should find something more.
But it is the more complex sentences that worry her.
This word is hard. If you asked me to read beyond this, I wouldn't even know.
Irene blames her struggle with reading on both her bad experiences in special ed and what she perceived as her parents' lack of support. We spoke to her mother, who maintains that she and Irene's father did encourage Irene to work on her reading.
A, B, C.
Irene is concerned that her shortcomings will affect her 3-year-old son, Kevin.
His teacher sends a notebook home, and I still have trouble. Like today, I was trying to read the book, and I didn't understand what it meant.
But the tutor, Bob, believes that Irene has tremendous potential, and so he's giving her advanced work, such as reading newspaper articles. But he is puzzled about why she seems to get unnecessarily tripped up.
She sometimes feels that she doesn't know words that she actually does know.
They stay for fewer days. Fewer older people use home health care.
He and the others often praise her in class when she shows progress.
You did excellent.
Yeah,
that was great. That was great.
Give yourself so much credit for that. That was very good, Irene.
But about 6 weeks after the tutoring sessions begin, Irene admits that she is uncomfortable hearing their encouraging words.
I guess it's because I never had a positive person say something like that. I'm normally used to hearing negative things about my education. And for somebody to think positive things, it's very shocking, but I don't believe that.
For Irene, and so many like her, learning to read will mean overcoming a lifetime of self-doubt and disappointment.
I was in Okinawa. We went up to the Jungle Warfare Training Center, and we had this obstacle course. And
Joyce Rossi's 20-year-old son, Lewis, a Marine stationed at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, is home for Thanksgiving as they spend time catching up.
Back because Ben.
Lewis is thrilled with what his mother is doing.
just to see her learning how to read, it feels great. I love working with her.
Joyce has made progress over the past 2 months. It's not a breakthrough, but for a son who grew up with a mother who could barely read a word, it's a big step.
I would get upset because, you know, I've kept on trying to teach her, but she just, you know, to me as a small child, be like, wow, what's so hard about this, Mom? You know, why can't you learn to read these words? I'm very proud. I thought it would never happen.
As for Joyce's goal to write a letter to him one day,
I'd be totally amazed.
and Joyce knows that sending letters may soon be the only way she can communicate with her son. His Marine unit is gearing up for possible deployment to the Middle East.
Long, money, more, move.
In class, Joyce shows that she can make it through close to 40 words on the list, easily surpassing her goal of 20. And she reads them out of order to make sure she's not simply memorizing them as a list.
Clothes, crayon, enough.
But as the winter weeks wear on, Joyce becomes uneasy about the likelihood that Lewis will be going to war. She tells us she is so upset she's been thinking about quitting the class, but then decides against that.
I was going to give up. I says, "Oh no, forget about it." But how? Why would you do something like that when you're just starting to, you're starting to pick up? Okay, here we go. Yeah, that little book.
In fact, instead of dropping out, Joyce throws herself into her work as a distraction from her worries. And toward the end of the year, her intense focus has paid off. She can read a good portion of the children's book that stumped her last fall.
Come and look at this bug, said Violet. It looks like a twig.
Now, the prospect of facing an audience of close to 600 at the library luncheon, which is just 5 months away, that's not so daunting.
Bin.
Things are also looking up for Lotta.
Begun.
In mid-December, after
Behind.
weeks of struggle, she surprises the class
Bring. Brother. By.
and reads 45 of the 100 words.
Very good. Very
Yeah.
good indeed.
It is not the full list as she had predicted, but it is a big improvement
EACH each.
and a few steps closer to being able to write a short essay she could use to help pass her citizenship test.
In the great green room.
There was a phone.
Telephone.
Henry still pictures being able to read to his 3-year-old granddaughter and puts in a lot of extra time with Bob just before Christmas.
That's a T, right? So T is going to be t. And then
Many of the
that
basics
dash,
continue to elude Henry, but he can recognize 11 of the 100 words he set out to learn.
Always.
Good.
Animal.
Yes.
Considering how vast the English language is, it hardly seems noteworthy. Yet, it is 9 words more than Henry once knew.
That's about as far as I'm at right now.
That's good though.
Good.
But during the next several weeks, harsh winter storms cause frequent power outages. That makes Henry's job at Con Edison even more demanding. He misses many classes. This was pretty exciting for you to be able to buy this house.
Oh, it was a godsend thing.
Later, Henry confides that he is preoccupied by a serious family problem. Last fall, he lost his home, he says, because he fell for a scam when he bought the house 4 years earlier and was saddled with mortgage payments that were deceptively higher than he had thought. Had he been able to read the fine print, Henry believes he would not have fallen for the scheme. How much money did you lose in this house?
Everything that I had,
Really?
everything, my whole life savings and everything. I'm trying to catch up ever since then, and it's still hard.
But if you'd been able to read,
If I would have been able to read, I could have played their game and could have turned the whole thing around because I know it was a game.
Henry's family is now living in emergency housing provided by the city in what he describes as a drug-infested neighborhood. Was it hard for you to come back here?
Yes, it is. You know, I'm trying to keep them tears down, but it's hard. You know, this was the green room where we had my flowers and everything over there. It was like heaven, like paradise, apples, you know, pears, grapes, the whole nine, like the Garden of Eden. This don't happen overnight, not to somebody like me, but it happened. And to lose all of that, that's quite a blow.
Go, girl.
Can I read it?
Sure.
Okay. I'm like so excited.
During the winter months, a different Irene begins to emerge. She's becoming more confident and eager to show the class that she can smoothly read an article that previously had stumped her.
Today, police officers are more cautious when they pull drivers over.
Irene says the reason for her progress is simple. She's doing something she had never done before. She's making reading a part of her life. And the more she reads, the better she gets.
I never had the desire before to pick up anything to read, but now it's like it doesn't. I don't have to think about it. I just get up and just do it.
She also attributes her improvement to the way her tutor, Bob, has taught her to break words down and to the supportive environment that he creates.
He doesn't criticize. He just says, you know, that's the whole point of life is to make mistakes and you learn from them.
It's the kind of help that Irene has been seeking all of her life. In a writing sample within her school records, Irene at age 14 wrote, "I never learned how to read. No one has teach me." There's another reason why Irene believes that she was written off by her teachers. When she took IQ tests during elementary and junior high school, she scored in the mildly mentally retarded range. We were surprised to learn that, given what we saw of Irene over several months. So we asked if she would agree to be evaluated again by a trained specialist. She did, and scored considerably higher in what is known as the low average range. It's hard to say why she scored so much worse as a child. But if Irene is right, those early test results and the response to them may have robbed her of the chance to learn to read at an early age. Now she's even more determined to one day get her high school equivalency degree and prove her records wrong.
My mom was sick, and she was in the hospital almost for 3 weeks.
After making terrific headway before Christmas, Lotta faces a setback in January. She had to abandon her studies to care for her mother, and now forgets much of what she had learned.
G-O-T. Go?
Well, go would be G-O.
Doesn't look familiar at all. G-O.
But Lotta is resolute. She wants to write that short essay about why she would like to become an American citizen, something she can read at the library luncheon in May. She tells Bob the ideas she wants to convey, and he writes them down and records them for her. Now the hard part, learning to read that herself.
As a woman, they weren't many. They weren't many things. Kind of missing that word. I could not do my. Can't get that.
I'm gonna go see my sister Lydia.
In early February, after working with Bob for a little more than 4 months, Joyce decides to take on a challenge. She will travel by train from Queens to her sister Lydia's home on Long Island. It's a 1-hour trip on a commuter train. Most adults would think nothing of it. But think about this. Joyce Rossi is 51 years old. She has never traveled out of town on a train by herself. That's just one of the crippling consequences of illiteracy.
I'm going there like almost blind, you know, like I don't know, do I go across? Is there more trains?
Joyce has a piece of paper that indicates her destination.
Yeah. Lake something. Oh my God. I have to go to Lakes Road or something?
Lake Ronkonkoma. One way?
Yeah. Thank you.
To locate the track number, she has to try to make sense of a list of unfamiliar words.
It's not even up there. I don't even see it. Oh, I got it. It's on 136.
Despite her uncertainty that day, Joyce said she never would have attempted this outing before having made her small but very real gains in reading.
I wouldn't even take the chance. You know, because if I would have got lost, forget about it.
Joyce experiences a few more touch-and-go moments that afternoon.
Ronkonkoma, no. Just go and ask the lady right over there in the,
Okay. Thank you. I almost went on the wrong train.
This is Ronkonkoma, the last stop, Ronkonkoma, this train takes.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
But she pulls it off and meets her sister, who is thrilled that Joyce finally has come to visit her. 2 months later, she decides to let her son Louis, the Marine, know about her achievement. And she does that by writing him a letter.
Hi, Lou. I miss you so. I went to Lydia's house by train. I came back. Love you, Lou. Love Mom. And then I put a smiling face, you know.
It is a triumph, spelling mistakes and all, to put her thoughts down on paper. But these are anxious days for Joyce, knowing her son is now in Iraq and in danger.
And every time I look, I think I see him there. You know, when I close my eyes at night, this is what I see. See, just like that. I think that's him. So it's like, you know, it's so crazy.
Still, Joyce will not be thrown off her personal course.
While he's working hard over there, I'm going to work hard doing my reading. I have to be a little bit more smarter and start reading. And once I do, when he comes back, I could read.
Hello everyone. My name is Lata.
It is late
And
April.
I come
Call this
from
a
the
dress
London.
rehearsal of sorts.
As a
The
woman,
literacy students are trying to see how they will feel standing at the microphone, reading aloud.
I'm standing here today to talk about a problem I had to face for years.
They will be doing the same thing a month later at the library luncheon, but in front of a crowd of perhaps 600 people.
I'm here to read. Okay, about the opportunity to learn.
Joyce, Lotta, and Irene are summoning the nerve to share what they have prepared. But Henry, once again, is absent.
opportunity to learn how to read and write. Thank you. Oh, I did it. Oh my God.
In mid-May, the group takes stock of how far they've come over the past 8 months. Irene is proud of her improved skills.
Within your family, do you try words out on them?
Yes, I show off a lot around my family.
Is it exciting?
Yes, I'm always excited to read. Like right now I'm reading, it's my first time ever reading a book.
Really? And you're able to read this?
I'm starting to read it now, yeah. I had this book for 10 years and I couldn't read it. And now I picked it up last week and I was like, I want to try to read the book.
Years ago.
Though it has been weeks since Lotta has focused on the list of 100 words, she's game to show what she has retained.
Let's try that one. Do you know what that is?
That's enough.
Right, it's very good.
Yeah.
How about that one, number 13?
That's behind.
You're doing pretty well. When you go into a store now, are you seeing more words that you recognize?
Yeah, it's a little slower for me than I expected, but I'm learning more and more as the days goes by.
Henry is upfront about his frustrations.
Are you able to sit down with your granddaughter and open a book with her?
I haven't been really successful with that because I hadn't had much time to go there.
Is it time or is it just discouraging? Is it hard as well?
It's hard, but I mean, yeah, you only get something on what you put into it, you know? So like, when I get discouraged, I back off and then I try again.
He's hoping his curiosity will keep him motivated.
So when you hear a word now, do you say, I wonder what that looks like?
Yes. When I looked at father, husband, I never knew what it looked like.
I have to bring something.
As for Joyce, she has grand ambitions.
How about your goal for a year from now? Do you have one?
I want to help somebody else read. I just want to take them and say, come over here. I did the same thing.
But first, she and the others will have to show what they have learned at the library luncheon, which is now just 10 days away.
Good afternoon, everyone.
The big day finally has arrived. There are almost 600 people gathered in the hall, including the students' family members. Joyce, Henry, Irene, and Lotta have been illiterate for most of their lives, but for the past 8 months, they've worked hard trying to learn how to read. Now they have a chance to show what they have learned. Understandably, they're overwhelmed.
I can't do it. Oh my God, I can't, when I go up there, I can't do it.
Irene is the first to read.
Most of my life, I was led to believe that I wasn't smart and I couldn't learn, and I believed it. For 17 years of my life, I didn't know how to read. Knowing for years that I was lost in the system, I didn't think I had a place to turn to or a chance to better myself. Now I'm happy that I can teach my son Kevin how to read.
It's not surprising that Irene can deliver her speech so well. She's been the most advanced in the group all year. Still, it is striking to consider that this essay comes from a young woman once labeled mentally retarded. Her message today, don't give up on kids who fall behind.
There are more people like me out there dealing with the same problem. We need to let the Board of Ed know that this problem still exists, and if they don't take care of it now, there's no hope for the future. Thank you.
Next up, Joyce.
I am here to read about the opportunity to learn. The opportunity to learn let me see. And to learn and to be, okay, and where am I? Okay. Oh, to be what you can be. And that's what I call the opportunity to learn how to read and write. Thank you.
A few stumbles, but she makes it. It's a victory she can report to her son Louis, who is due back from Iraq next month.
Our third member.
Now it's Henry's turn. During the past few weeks, his fellow students had been wondering whether he would even show up today.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm deeply honored to be here because I never thought I'd really make it here. I'm still learning. Learning to read is a hard work, especially when you get up in age. For the first time in my life, I can read this little sentence that I have here, and it starts like this. I am a father, husband, father, and grandfather. I thank God that it is a privilege for me to be here today. I am still learning about reading and writing. That's all, ladies and gentlemen.
Despite months of struggle, something is starting to work for Henry. Finally, it is Lotta's turn.
Hello everyone, my name is Lotta. When I came to this country and tried to get my citizenship, I could not write good enough. That was 10 years ago. Now I am learning how to read and write. And
Lotta,
now I am
who could
able
recognize 2
to
or
get
3 words
some
just 8
of
months
the
ago,
things I
clearly
want.
now has a story to
Now I am
tell.
more- I want to get my citizenship. I will work hard to get it. Thank you and have a nice day.
We have spent only 8 months with these students, which is a very short period of time in a process that can take years. Still, over these months, we have seen what can be accomplished with adult illiterates, determined to change their lives. It takes great personal courage first to admit they can't read, then to begin the laborious process of learning what the rest of us have known since childhood. For Henry, Joyce, Irene, and Lotta, it has been a long, sometimes discouraging time, but it's also been a season of personal accomplishment and pride for themselves, for their mentors, and for their families. It's a new life, one word at a time. President Bush came into office determined to address the issue of illiteracy with a program called No Child Left Behind. But the magnitude of the problem goes well beyond a slogan, however well-meaning. The hard facts are stunning. In the months since we began our report, one national study found that more than a third of our 4th graders cannot read as well as they should. And another study determined that a quarter of high school seniors cannot write as well as they should. And what about all those other kids who simply drop out of school? Tonight, we have seen the painful consequences of adult illiteracy. Isn't it time that we pay closer attention to this problem before another generation of children is left behind? I'm Tom Brokaw for all of us at NBC News. Good night.
Come and look at this bug, said Violet. It looks like a twig.
NBC News, America's news leader.